Hello, everybody. My name is Paula Skaggs, and I'm the local editor for the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Patch. And welcome to the Lake County Administrative Office's Candidates Debate, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Lake Forest Lake Bluff, Highland Park and Highwood, and Deerfield, the Lake Forest Lake Bluff Senior Center, and all of us at Patch. Thank you all so much for coming out today. In a year of a presidential election, it's so easy to overlook really how important these local elections are. But these are the people that are going to be making the decisions that affect all of us on a very real day-to-day basis. For more information on all of the candidates today, as well as everybody else who's running, visit us on Patch at lakeforestpatch.com. So if you forget it, just look behind everybody. Thank you, and here is Hollis Burgess, who is graciously moderating today's debate.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of you. It's so beautiful outside. It's amazing to see people inside right now. Might have done this outside. Anyway, I am, what? Louder? Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I am with the State Board of the League of Women Voters of Illinois, so I am an impartial, supposedly an impartial person. I do not live in Lake County. I live in the city of Chicago at the moment, and I'd like to welcome all of you here today. This debate is sponsored by the leagues of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, Highland Park, Highwood, and Deerfield, Patch, and the Lake Forest, Lake Bluff Senior Center. And we'd like to thank everybody for all the efforts they've made here. I'd like to take a little moment to go over membership in the League. The League is a nonpartisan political organization committed to an informed, active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of and influence public policy issues through education and advocacy. With more than 90 years of experience, League is one of the most trusted grassroots organizations. If you're interested in becoming more involved or informed about issues, there is membership information on the tables outside. Anyone with a League name tag in here can answer your questions, and there's inside on our websites, and they have information on the program. So I suggest you keep your programs, because there's the website information on the back, or you can go to www.lwvil.org. Just a note, there's video voters guides on their websites, either the Lake Forest, Lake Bluff org, on the Highland Park website, or at Vote 411. A little thing I forgot. If any of you have your cell phones on, would you please turn them off right now? On a note on that, we do... Okay, when I get to questions, I'll mention that. Right now, I'd like to make note that the 10th Congressional District and State and County Office debates, previous debates, are available on public access channels 17 and 19 in Lake Forest and on YouTube. You can check with one of the League people if you want more information on that. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me on this. Let's go over the rules for today. Candidates have 1.5 minutes to make an opening remark. They drew lots to see who would go first. We flipped a coin. They will alternate on questions, so each candidate gets a chance to be first. And then they will have 1 minute to respond on the questions. They will have 1.5 minutes for the closing statement, and those closing statements will be in the reverse order to the opening statements. Candidates will be timed. Warnings given as to elapsed time. We have timers in the front. And times will be strictly enforced. You don't get to finish your sentence. The audience may ask questions, but they need to be submitted on the index cards that you were given as you went out. There are people, League members standing, who will come and collect them if you will just raise your hand. If you need a card and a pencil, raise your hand. They will collect them from you. As noted before, please print clearly. We do not want questions rejected because nobody can read your handwriting. The questions are kind of scanned to avoid duplications and to make sure they're appropriate. Another major note. The League has sole ownership of any voice, image, or other duplication of the form, any video. To be able to use anything, nothing can be used in any candidate's promotional or advertising material. Individuals who might want to reproduce a portion or in some way for private use must contact the League for permission. So we don't want to see pictures floating around anywhere. With that, I will introduce the candidates. Thank you. And we can get started. And our first debate is for State's Attorney. We have Chris Kennedy, who is the Democrat, and Mike Nerheim, who is a Republican. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Kennedy, who has the opening remarks.
Thank you. Are we okay? Okay? All right. Thank you. I'm Chris Kennedy. I'm running for State's Attorney of Lake County. For 32 years, Lake County has had the same people running the State's Attorney's Office, which in and of itself may not necessarily be bad, but where it's led us is to national headlines of injustice, accusations that people have been wrongfully convicted, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, and ultimately cases in which people who have murdered children have remained free to go and commit more crime. I'm running because I believe I can change this. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to be able to change this. I'm a former prosecutor. I've been an attorney for 18 years. I have a track record of independence and integrity that I've worked very hard to develop because I don't care who someone is or who they know. I ask whether someone did something wrong and whether we can prove it, because that's the ultimate ethic. A prosecutor has to uphold justice. Unique among attorneys, the ethical duty of a prosecutor is to seek justice, not convictions. That's unique and that's different because the system ultimately depends on the integrity of the prosecution. So I have a long record of independence. I have taken on public officials in both parties who have done wrong, and I've done that at significant personal and professional expense. I've also led changes. I've written the law in the state of Illinois to protect people with developmental disabilities. I also have personal reasons for why I'm running, what motivates me, and I'm also on the school board. I have experience managing public funds well. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Nerheim.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mike Nerheim, and I'm the Republican candidate for State's Attorney. This office, the word I think of when I think of the State's Attorney's office is trust. The people of this county have to trust the State's Attorney to ensure that two very important things happen. Our streets are safe, and that those people that have contact with our criminal justice system are treated fairly. The reputation of the State's Attorney's office has been damaged. That's a fact. The question is, how do we fix it? This isn't about party. This is about justice. I'm running as a Republican. If somebody breaks the law, however, I don't care what party they're from, they're going to be prosecuted. This is about restoring the public's reputation, or the public's trust and the reputation of that office. I've been a prosecutor. I've prosecuted thousands of very serious crimes. But I've also been a private defense attorney where I practice in Lake County. I've devoted my entire career to practicing criminal law in Lake County. I go to court every day and represent regular people against the State's Attorney's office right now to make sure they're treated fairly. I'm in that courthouse every day as an adversary to the State's Attorney's office. I know what's wrong with the office, and I know how to fix it so that reputation is restored, and most importantly, so you trust the State's Attorney's office. I'm going to ask for your support, your vote, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question will go to Mr. Nerheim. And 1 minute answers. How can you improve transparency and accountability in the office without compromising privacy?
Question is, how do you improve transparency in the office? That's a major issue. Right now, the people have no access to the state's attorney's office, and as the question indicates, there are certain rules that apply where the prosecutors cannot talk to the press about pending cases. Those ethical rules must be followed. I don't believe in trying cases in the media. However, I do believe that the public has a right to know what's going on in the state's attorney's office. The public has a right to know about major crime trends in this community, and I believe it's the role of the state's attorney to go out and listen to the people and to talk to them about what's going on. And I've spent the last couple of years of my career, before I decided to run for office, going out and talking to senior groups, for example, about identity theft and issues that relate to seniors. That's something that the state's attorney's office should do, and the prosecutor, as the lead law enforcement officer for the county, should take a leadership role and go out and talk to the public and also listen.
Now, I've been talking about this for quite a long time. The state's attorney's office, now that it's become nationally known for all these cases, the 50 or more articles by the Chicago Tribune all include something to the effect that the state's attorney did not return phone calls seeking comment. All right, that needs to change. That's a cultural thing. That's just something that I think fundamentally goes against your responsibility as a public servant. You need to answer to the people who are paying the bills. Now, it starts right at the outset. So one of my proposals that I'm sure we're going to get to is a conviction integrity unit. I'm going to hire somebody to come in and look at some of the old cases and also oversee processes in the office going forward with an outside advisory body. But the person who I'm going to hire is going to be a publicly posted position. This is not somebody who's my friend, and then the people who are going to be on this committee will also be vetted publicly. That's something that you set the tone as the state's attorney. I'm committed to total transparency, as I have been throughout my career and throughout my campaign too. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the second question, something I forgot to mention. When you do your questions, besides printing clearly, you must write your question in a way that can be directed to both candidates. It's an issue question as opposed to a specific to one candidate. Thank you. Okay, second question, and we start with Mr. Kennedy on this one. What is one of the main impacts that will happen if you become state's attorney?
Well, the first thing is a change in the culture. No more insider, no more friends and family kind of practices, no more favoritism toward any group or individual. Throughout my career, like I said, I don't care who someone is. I've said this before. If my mom comes to Lake County and commits a crime, she'll be prosecuted. But I won't be the one who does it. And I think this is where we've had missteps in the past. If there's any even appearance of impropriety, that's where you bring in outside counsel. So there was a death in the jail, the state's attorney investigated it, but the state's attorney also has a statutory responsibility to represent the sheriff in a civil lawsuit. So the smart move there would have been to bring in somebody at the outset instead of much later, which is what wound up happening. So, that fundamentally is going to be a significant change. I also have, like I said, leadership experience, and there's no way to answer these questions in 60 seconds. So go to my website, chriskennedy2012.com. There's just far too much to get in here in 1 minute, so thank you.
Well, that's one area where my opponent and I agree. It's tough to answer this in 1 minute. Again, this gets to the reputation, to the trust. One of the things I've proposed, and we'll get to this question, I'm sure, is an independent outside panel to review some of the practices and some of the cases, because I want to know. If we got it wrong in the past, I want to know. And as we move forward, we cannot afford to have any wrongful convictions. Right now, there's 4 cases that are the subject of the press. We can't have even one. Our entire criminal justice system is set up to ensure that the last possible thing that happens is an innocent person is convicted. That simply cannot happen. I also want to fight gangs and drugs, specifically heroin. We have a terrible gang problem in this county that's growing on a daily basis, and with those, the gangs, they bring drugs, and again, specifically heroin. That's something that has to be addressed, and I do have plans on my website that I've had from day one on how I'm going to address these issues. And again, it's MikeNerheim2012.com.
Thank you. Question 3, we start with you, Mr. Nerheim. What is your specific felony prosecution experience, and how many felony trials have you handled from start to finish?
I worked in every division of the state's attorney's office, every criminal division. I've prosecuted thousands of cases. I've tried hundreds. And a trial is different than saying you prosecuted cases. From start to finish, I've prosecuted, again, hundreds of cases. I've prosecuted basically anything you can imagine in terms of criminal court. And I'm proud of the work that I did in the state's attorney's office. And even when I was in a division where you weren't necessarily assigned to try cases, I would take it upon myself to try cases. When I was assigned to the felony review division, for example, where I was on call at night answering pages from police officers throughout the county with questions, or if they needed search warrants or approval on charges, I would be up all night taking those calls, and then during the day, I would be trying cases, very serious rape cases, and sleeping on the floor of my office during the day so I could be up trying those cases. I got into this business because I like to try cases. And as a prosecutor, you lead by example. And as state's attorney, I will also continue to try cases.
Thank you. I too intend to try cases. You know, I've tried massive cases involving bet the company type of civil litigation. Civil litigation actually that's bigger than these civil lawsuits that are coming because of the wrongful convictions, and those are going to be significant. But as a felony prosecutor, I tried a number of cases. Anybody that tells you a specific number is probably either making it up or concentrating on the wrong thing, frankly. But you know, the last criminal case I tried was an armed violence case in which the defendant received a 16-year sentence. He may still be in prison for all I know. So I've tried serious felony cases as well. I've also been in every division of the office on the criminal side, with the exception of juvenile, and only 15 seconds left to go. But you know, I've tried massive cases. I intend to try cases myself. I've supervised other attorneys, and I've taught them how to try cases, how to work up cases. That's an experience that I think we're going to need when you're talking about supervising 73 attorneys. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we start with you, Mr. Kennedy, on this one. And what help would you provide with respect to crimes against the elderly and in identity theft?
One of the things I've done throughout the course of this campaign is commit things to writing, because my positions don't change on these things. So a long time ago, I put a position paper together on wrongful convictions, on sex crimes, on gangs, on senior issues. So the assistance to individual seniors is something that I think we can expand upon. I think the state's attorney's office does have a significant role in educating the public. So one of the things I like to do is talk to groups about what can happen to them, because prevention is, of course, the most important aspect of the criminal justice system, is to try and prevent crimes from happening in the first place. One of the other proposals that I have is to try to bring in and use perhaps even grant money, or perhaps even advocate with the county board to bring in someone who has expertise in financial crimes. We don't go after the white collar crimes enough. And I think financial exploitation of seniors, I've handled cases like that before, and that's something that I think we can expand our capacity to address. 1 minute.
Well, as I said earlier, it is the role of the state's attorney to get out and educate the public. And before I was a candidate and continuing through my campaign, I've continued to go out and talk to seniors about identity theft and about elder abuse and issues that are specifically related to seniors. In fact, I gave a presentation in this exact room, and this is something that I've done as an attorney that I'll continue to do as the state's attorney, because these crimes affect all of us in Lake County. They affect us every day, and it's a horrible situation where people specifically prey on the elderly. A lot of the financial crimes and a lot of the internet crimes are handled by the cyber division in the state's attorney's office. There's one prosecutor right now in that division. That person is completely overworked, and their caseload is too much for one person. That needs to be expanded. And also I would look to increase training with the victim counselors, so they're specifically trained on dealing with seniors that are victims, because there's a whole set of the issues that come along with that we have to make sure that those counselors are trained on working with seniors.
Okay. Mr. Nerheim, you start this question, so you might as well stay standing. Since you introduced your proposed conviction review committee, I'm going to ask us this part of the question. Is it appropriate for those persons to, I assume on the committee, on any committee, to remain unnamed and unidentified prior to the commencement of voting? Voting? Okay, I think I've got it. They're asking if you have this committee, you've suggested a committee, and I guess the question would be, do you think it's appropriate to suggest something like that where the people are not known prior to when people would vote for you?
Right. This is a question that's come up a lot, an issue that's come up a lot. This gets to my panel. My panel is an independent outside panel. This problem is too big for one person. The solution, the responsibility will be mine as state's attorney, but I'm brave enough to know that I want outsiders to come in that have no ties to Lake County, that have no ties to these cases with a depth of experience, retired judges, retired prosecutors, defense attorneys, to come in and look at these cases. And I have lined up the panel of people that have agreed to volunteer their time to do this, and I have not released their names in respect to them, because they have asked me not to publicize their name. They do not want to be politicized as part of this campaign. As soon as I'm elected, I can tell you on the next day, I will release the names and bios of every person on that panel. Everything will be completely transparent. These people are Democrats, they're Republicans, they're from outside of Lake County, and they don't want to be dragged into this race. So out of respect for them, I've not released their names, and that's why.
This goes to transparency. I think it is completely inappropriate to claim that you have, and really presumptuous to have named a panel already. And this is a fundamental responsibility of the state's attorney, not of somebody else. You can't bring in somebody else to do your job for you. And when it's described as independent and outside, those are both untrue, because you can't just hand off cases to somebody outside the office. You have to swear them in as special assistant state's attorneys. When you do that, they are part of the office. They're not outside either, because like I said, they're brought in, and then the independence is inherently in question because they've already been named, apparently. They've already signed on to this during a political campaign. And of all the people that I know who study this issue, law professors and that, I've spoken to many, many of them. They haven't spoken to my opponent. So, you know, that's where transparency comes in. My proposal is to publicly post a position for a senior prosecutor from outside the system to come in. We also have an advisory body as to policy only, because that's what's appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, next question, and Mr. Kennedy, you're first on this one. What is the biggest mistake? The way it's written is, what is the biggest mistake the office has made, and how will you fix it? I assume they mean previous office holders in this office.
Yes, the biggest mistake is the failure to acknowledge and address past mistakes. Because if you look in all of these cases, the pattern is the same. They involve a decision that was made to go forward flying in the face of physical evidence, and in some cases to even resist the testing of the physical evidence in the first place. So those could have been remedied, and in each of these cases, there was a stage in which the decision was made, do we go forward in the face of DNA evidence? And the decision in each of those was yes, okay? So the past mistakes weren't acknowledged in those cases, and they still haven't been acknowledged or addressed going forward. So the most important thing, day one, is to set up a mechanism, a structural mechanism to drive cultural change in the office. And that's where I'm going to bring in a senior person, hopefully a former federal prosecutor, who again, publicly posted, is going to come in, oversee not just the review of past cases, but also going forward to make sure that we're doing everything right the first time, that everybody has training, that everybody knows what their responsibilities are, ethically and professionally, so that this kind of thing never happens again.
The greatest mistake, in my opinion, is a reluctance to look at other issues, other theories of cases. When evidence comes in that does not support the state's particular theory in a case, on a certain case, there's a tendency to sort of dig your heels in, and that can't happen. And that's why an independent outside panel is needed and is effective. And that's why I've set this up. It's completely workable, it's completely legal, and it will happen. And the reason I've set it up is because this issue is too important. On day one of my campaign, of my taking office, I will be ready to hit the ground running with this issue. We have to resolve this right away. We cannot afford any wrongful convictions in Lake County, which is why I've taken it upon myself to go out and put this panel together in advance of the election so we can get going right away. Thank you.
I'm going to be combining a couple of questions here. And Mr. Nerheim, you're first on this one. And if you want, at any time, want me to repeat the questions, please. What is your view regarding the accuracy of DNA evidence? Do you accept the conclusions? And if you do, how would it inform what you plan to do in the office? In 1 minute.
DNA, when we look at these cases, the issue hasn't necessarily been the accuracy of the evidence. It's been, what I just talked about, it's been a reluctance to accept that evidence. The DNA is accurate. And in fact, since these cases that we're discussing have happened, it's gotten more accurate. We're able to test DNA with a smaller sample. We are able to get those tests back quicker. So the issue isn't the accuracy of that science. It's accepting the results. If a defendant wants to have a DNA test, let them have it. If the DNA comes back and it suggests that you were wrong in a particular case, then that's your responsibility of a prosecutor to make sure that that charge does not proceed, because you have to make sure you're convicting the right people. If a defendant asks for a test, it's going to tell you one of three things. It's going to tell you nothing, it's going to make your case stronger, or God forbid, it's going to tell you you have the wrong person. And you're going to want to know that as the prosecutor.
Well, that's my line. I've been saying that for over a year because at the time the national media started paying attention to this office. We actually recently got a recording of my opponent saying that the criticism of the office was not justified. And this is after the national media had been discussing this. So I've been saying for a long time it's not a question of the technicalities of the evidence, because ultimately that really wasn't what was in dispute. What was in dispute was whether prosecutors were willing to accept it. And here it comes back. But you know, I've been out front on this issue, and I've taken a lot of criticism for this, but I believe it needs to be said. We need to change the culture of tunnel vision that has led to these results. How else do you have an office in which nobody apparently questioned the conclusions that blamed 11-year-old victims of rape and murder for being promiscuous? I mean, that's only one case. There were other cases in which there were transference theories that made no sense whatsoever that were proffered. People in the office either didn't say anything or felt that they couldn't say anything. And that's wrong. We need to change that at its core.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy, you're first on this one. How do you propose we pay for the civil lawsuits that are coming due to wrongful convictions in the current state's attorney's office?
Well, I think for one, we need to prevent these from ever happening again, all right? Whoever the state's attorney is going to have to defend these cases, all right? And I've handled cases, like I said, that are even bigger than the damages that are likely to be at issue in this case. So I have extensive experience in handling these in terms of who pays what. Ultimately, the taxpayers are on the hook. There are funds and perhaps even insurance and perhaps other municipalities that are going to be dragged into these things. So I'm not going to comment on what may happen or what I think should happen, but I do think we ultimately need to change this forever, because this is not just a couple of cases. This is emblematic of an entire culture that leads to this kind of thinking. And that's a fundamental problem when you're talking about the prosecutor's office and all the responsibilities that you have. You also have higher duties to protect against this. And that's why your ethical duty is higher than any other attorney. And we need to make sure that everybody in the office upholds the very highest standards, because we deserve better.
Thank you. Had I known we would be so efficient, I would have given you a minute and a half to answer your questions. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay. This one's, how do you propose we pay for the civil lawsuits that are coming due to wrongful convictions in the current state's attorney's office?
there are at least 4 cases coming. Some have been filed already, and that is something that the state's attorney will be called upon to defend, which is exactly why, when asked, I did say that not all of the criticism against that office is justified. This is not all criticism against Mike Waller, the state's attorney. This is not simply a Mike Waller issue. Mike Waller's retiring. If he was the sole cause of this problem, neither my opponent nor myself would have to have any solutions because he's leaving. So this is something that's deeper than one person or a few people. This is a systematic issue in the entire office. We have to bring a culture of that office that is open to all different types of evidence and that is not going to be closed to looking at the defense theory in a case. And again, keep in mind, I'm a defense attorney. I go to court every day in Waukegan, as I have throughout this campaign, and I represent people against the state's attorney's office. Wrongful convictions aren't something that I just talk about. I fight against them every day, and I have as this campaign has continued, and I will as your state's attorney.
This question is kind of a follow-up for the last 2 that we've had, but I'm going to go ahead with it, and I'm going to break with tradition and give you each 2 minutes to answer this. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Nerheim. Please explain, giving specific steps, how you will work to ensure wrongful convictions do not occur.
Well, again, training. We have to increase training in the office. When I was a young prosecutor, we had monthly trainings where every prosecutor from traffic to felony was brought to the 10th floor, and we consistently and repeatedly trained. We trained each other. This was in-house training, and that's something that should be brought back. It should be done at least twice a month. This is free. It doesn't cost the taxpayers money. We can bring in somebody from the crime lab to talk about DNA. There's no reason that the traffic assistant shouldn't be trained on DNA, because that science will change from the time that they're in traffic to when they become felony assistants. So we have to increase training, and this isn't just a DNA issue. There's been a lot of talk about DNA, and again, I've prosecuted with DNA, I've defended with DNA, I teach DNA, but this gets to other issues. More wrongful convictions are the result of faulty identifications than DNA. So we have to look at our identification process and change that. We also have to look at faulty interrogations and propose a situation where interrogations are videotaped, all of them, not just on felony murder cases. And the case review panel, the independent outside panel of people that will come in and bring their diverse legal experience to make those recommendations. I will make the decision, but I want outside independent opinions on these cases. I don't want to depend on somebody that works for me, somebody that's in that office every day. I want people that aren't afraid to call us out. And every person in that office has to have the culture that their job is to seek justice, not a conviction. And that's on every piece of literature I've handed out since the beginning of my campaign. It's an ethical tenet, and it's something that every prosecutor in the state's attorney's office should and will live by. People will not be rewarded for convictions. They'll be rewarded for trying cases, for doing their job, for making sure that we're seeking justice, not convictions.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Wrongful convictions occur in several different ways. Most of them center on what the police and prosecutors do wrong, usually through errors. So training is extremely high on the list, and that's really something that ought to be improved with higher standards. Everybody in police circles needs to have the proper training to conduct murder investigations, to take interrogations. There are certifications now, and that's an important thing. But ultimately, the prosecutor is the gatekeeper. The prosecutor is the one who says go or no go on a case. And I never had a problem when I was a prosecutor saying no if we didn't have the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. But by the same token, if we did have the case, or if we had the workings of the case and we needed to go get some other evidence, we need to go after it. And we need to make sure that we've tied up every single loose end. So what leads to wrongful convictions in many cases is the prosecutor not being the backstop, not stopping things from going forward, not reconsidering whether you got it right in the first place. And when you look at, again, this criticism is over a year old now, and we have video of my opponent saying quite the opposite, that he was very proud of supporting Mike Waller. He was very proud to have stood with him, marched in parades with him, and felt the criticism of him wasn't justified. This has been going on for a year, and now the rhetoric has come full circle. But this is something I've been saying for a year and a half. We need to change this. And what's been done in other jurisdictions is what's legal to do, which is a conviction integrity unit within the office. You can't have an outside independent body review your cases. It can't be outside because they're sworn in. It can't be independent because he's already named them as part of his process, and they're going to be sworn in as part of the office. But you can have an outside body advise you on policies and procedures and best practices, because I've said this from the beginning as well. Our county deserves a model office that ought to be the best in the country, one that others look to as a model of what you can do right.
Okay. Then we'll go back to the 1 minute process. That's quick. And who do we start? We start with Mr. Kennedy on this one. Have you accepted campaign contributions from your party or a PAC, and have you done work for your party? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, my party is Democratic. I have been a Democrat for as long as I can remember, but I've also been a very independent-minded Democrat. So when people came to me with a case, a few cases actually, in which they were wronged by someone in a public office who was a Democrat, I didn't hesitate to take that case or to take that on. So the question was, have I taken money from the party? No, the Democratic Party doesn't seem to care about the state's attorney's race. You know, I don't belong to an organized political party. I'm a Democrat. It's the old joke. It took a second. But yeah, I've had to raise my own money. You know, I'm not from a wealthy family. I'm a Kennedy. I'm not one of those Kennedys. So I have to raise my own money. I spend a lot of time calling strangers and just asking them if they can contribute to the campaign because of what I stand for and what I'm going to do. And the things that I owe them are, first, a signed thank you letter, and second, a responsibility to do the job right. And that's it.
Well, raising money is the hardest part of campaigning. I've never run for office before. This is the first office I've sought, and it's tough. And I'm proud of the campaign donations I've received. One of the most proud donations I've received is from a young man, a former student of mine, that gave me $15. He had $15 in his pocket. It's all he had. And $15 to me is still a lot of money, so, and I know it was to him. And those are the donations I'm proud of. These campaigns are expensive. A countywide campaign costs a lot of money. Signs are not cheap. Now, I have been recently offered money from my party, and I respectfully turned it down. It's not because I'm not proud to be a Republican. I am. But I've spent a lot of time in my campaign talking about I do not believe this office should be at all political. We shouldn't be talking about party when we're talking about the state's attorney's office. Because of that, I turned money down from my own party, and I haven't taken any PAC money.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Newman, you're first on this question. Should there be a monetary cap on the claims of wrongful convictions?
No, I don't believe in caps on claims for wrongful convictions. I can't imagine anything worse than being convicted of something that you didn't do. I was at an event not long ago where a man was in prison for over 30 years for something he didn't do. That's his entire adult life, and now that he's free, he's still never going to be the same. I don't know how you put a dollar amount on that. I really don't. If somebody's in jail for a day, wrongfully convicted, they're entitled to be compensated the best we can, and unfortunately, we can't give people time back. We can't give them their life back. All we can do is give them money. So if they were truly wrongfully convicted and they deserve a monetary judgment, they should get that judgment.
Well, the law in Illinois is that there are no caps, and whether or not there should be, the state's attorney has a duty to enforce the law as it's written. Okay, now I have been an advocate for improving the law in various ways. I've been extremely effective at improving the law for people with developmental disabilities, so I can be an advocate for changing the law in positive ways. In terms of how wrongful convictions affect people, you know, we've already as taxpayers paid a multi-million-dollar judgment for wrongful convictions a few years ago. And the person who was given that award is supporting my campaign, because he knows that I'm going to change the culture that has led to all of this happening. All right, so it's not just a couple of isolated incidents again. And in terms of money, I have to point these things out, but when you say you don't take from the party, but you take from the party's biggest funder, a $10,000 check, I have to fact check these things, because it is, to me, not being straight. And I've taken money from some people in labor unions. I've taken none of it anywhere near $10,000. So, I think we need to be aware of this. I don't have time to fact check everything. And I'm getting the stop sign.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, you're first on this question, and unless anybody has any questions out there, this is going to be our last question, then we'll go to closing. Who would be your first assistant? Would you keep the assistant state's attorneys who work under the previous state's attorney?
Well, I've been asked this question many times, as you can imagine, and my answer to everybody is that I'm not going to make personnel decisions on the campaign trail. All right, I'm going to commit to looking at every single person in the office. That goes for all 73 attorneys, and then the other 72 support personnel. And I'm going to review if the right people are in the right place, and if we can improve things by making personnel moves. I will say generally I am committed personally and professionally to diversity. Out of 73 attorneys, there are only 2 African Americans and 1 Latino. I am committed to recruiting talented people of diverse backgrounds and viewpoints to make sure that we get the best of the best. The market now allows us to compete in the public sector with attorneys who probably would never have been available for public service type jobs. So I think we can really improve that. I'm going to have an open, publicly posted hiring process, all right? The hiring is not going to be based on somebody calling me. This is going to be based on a panel of people within the office that looks at and considers who the best candidates are and make recommendations.
State's Attorney's Office used to be a stepping stone career. People would work there for 2 to 4 years and they'd move on into the private sector. The State's Attorney's Office now is a position where qualified attorneys seek to work, and they want to stay there their entire careers and serve you. There's 143 people that work in that office, not just attorneys. There's counselors, there's investigators. There's a lot of people that do a lot of very important things. What I would do, what I would pledge to do, is sit down with each and every one of them, not just the attorneys, and do 2 things. Re-interview every one of them to make sure that they're a fit for the office as we move forward, and also make sure I want to listen to them. I want to listen to their ideas. The file clerk may have an idea on how to run that division or the office better, but nobody's ever listened to their idea. So I want to listen to every single employee in that office and make sure, again, that they're a fit for us to move forward, and I want to listen to their ideas. And I have not made any personnel decisions with regard to anybody that works in that office now.
Thank you. Thank you both. Since there are no more questions, we'll go to the closing statements, and Mr. Nerheim gets to make the first one, and I made an executive decision. You both get 2 minutes.
Gives up my planned speech. Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time to come out. This is important to us as candidates. State's Attorney's Office is something a lot of people don't know about. And as you know, and as we know, this is one of the most important offices, in my opinion, that exist in all of government, especially local government. Because as I said earlier, as State's Attorney, you're the chief law enforcement officer for the county. The chief law enforcement officer for the county, you're there to make sure that our streets are safe and that people are treated fairly. When I go to court as a criminal attorney, whether it's on a misdemeanor case or a felony case, we're not talking about money. We're not talking about $1 million civil judgments. We're talking about something much more important than that. Liberty and justice. Somebody on a misdemeanor charge who's looking to go to jail for 30 days. That's liberty. You can't put a dollar amount on that. It's something I take very seriously. That's why I practice criminal law. That's why I practice law in Lake County. Again, I go to court every day. I have throughout my campaign. I haven't stopped practicing law because of this campaign. I probably should have. But I go to court because I represent people against the office. I don't just talk about wrongful convictions. I've recognized that it's a problem, and I proposed a workable solution. I'm not interested in looking backwards. I'm not interested in pointing fingers at Mike Waller or anybody else in that office. If blame's due, blame's due. But as a leader, I'm interested in looking forward and restoring that office's reputation, restoring your trust in the office, and tackling the issues that we face every day. Crime, gangs, drugs, issues with respect to seniors. These are important issues. These are issues I care about. And I hope I can earn your trust and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming. I hear a lot about the reputation. What I don't hear enough of is doing something about what led to that reputation. Because if we don't restore the underlying trust by going after the underlying causes at their root, we're never going to get to a place where people trust the criminal justice system in Lake County again. There are jurors, and I hear this from attorneys, there are people who show up for jury duty and say, I don't trust anything coming from the state's attorney's office. That's a problem. That's a fundamental problem across the board, and that affects public safety. It really does in every single county and community in our county. You know, violent crime is not limited to just one place. My own cousin was a victim of a random abduction murder, and looking back on that case, the system failed in a number of ways. We can't let that happen. We can't let more of these cases happen again here in Lake County. And the best way, the best person to do this is going to be someone who comes from outside the system that has created this whole thing. So when we talk about tunnel vision, the tunnel vision really comes about from being inside the tunnel. And it's not a good thing to say that I have spent my entire career on County Street in Waukegan when you need to have outside perspective, outside leadership ability that's been demonstrated, which I have. And I've led, like I said, the changes in the law, not because it was my job to do it. I took it on. I led it. And leadership starts with an honest assessment of where we stand and with a definition of what the real problem is. So when you see all of the policies and all of the personal relationships that go into a 32-year establishment, some of it needs to really change fundamentally. So I come at this from an outsider's perspective. I've been attacked as such too. But I didn't intern in the office for 5 years before working there for 7 years, and now for 5 years working out cases at a 98% plea agreement rate. So the adversary argument really doesn't hold a lot of water. I've actually gone up against and criticized the office, and I believe it's warranted. And I believe we need to do something about it. So thank you.
That concludes this portion of the debates. We'd like to thank Mr. Neerman and Mr. Kennedy for being here with us today. And I'd like to thank all of you for coming. And I'm sure you can visit their websites or find out information about the candidates on the league's website. We'll reconvene at 2:30 for the next portion. Couple of short announcements, though. The league is sponsoring a meeting on November 1st on the Illinois public pension issues at Groton Community Center in Lake Forest at 7 p.m. That's November 1st. Also, they will be showing a play called Defamation on Friday, October 26th at 7 p.m. right here. And there's flyers out on both those events out on the tables. 1 minute? I guess we're starting in 1 minute.
Really?
This is the order. What about this one? Do we want that one at all?
I don't know.
Okay, so this is the order. Never mind. Then I won't use it.
You don't have to use every question. I mean, if something really, I mean, they've looked at this to the straight shooters. You don't have to do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I guess we're going to get started on the second portion of this afternoon. Our candidates for the Circuit Court Clerk, Keith Brin and Rupam Dave. Did I do it? Thank you. And Mr. Brin will be making the opening remarks. And we've decided to make a slight change. They're going to have 2 minutes for their opening and closing remarks, and they're getting 1.5 minutes to answer the question. Sorry, can you hear me now? The Verizon person in disguise. You can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for coming out to hear us in this debate. My name is Keith Brin. I'm running to be your clerk of the circuit court. How many people here know what the clerk of the circuit court does? Well, that's more hands than I usually get. We're actually, by statute, keepers of the court record. We also process all of the money for the court system. We're essentially the hub of the court wheel. We take care and make sure that the court's doing what it does and keep all of the records and make sure that everyone is well aware down the line of where they can go for information about the courts. For the last 3.5 years, I've been the chief deputy of the office. The current office holder, Sally Kaufelt, is retiring at the end of this term. This campaign is about experience and vision. For the last 3.5 years, I've been the chief deputy of the office. I've learned the office. I essentially have been doing everything that I'll be doing as your circuit court clerk on day one. There's no learning curve. But more than that, it's about vision in the office, where we're going to take your office in the next 4 years when I'm clerk of the circuit court. We're going to improve the infrastructure and technology of the court. I'm the co-chair of the technology committee at the Lake County Bar Association. I'm in touch with our customers, not only the people inside the court, the judges, the lawyers, but everyone who uses the court and is in touch with the court, the police agencies, people outside of the court system, see how we can do it better. The answer is technology. We've created from the ground up an electronic filing platform that, while we're waiting for implementation now, is being profiled as an example of what courtrooms across the country should use. This is what happens with good collaboration inside the court system. This is where the vision can take our court system. I look forward to answering your questions, and thank you very much for having me today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I feel very privileged to be speaking in front of you. My name is Rupam Dave, and I'm running for clerk of the circuit court. I'd first like, before I address certain issues, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a long-term resident of Lake County. I graduated from Libertyville High School. I have an economics degree from Loyola as well as a law degree from Loyola University. I first was ignited for public service by my grandparents, my grandfathers to be specific. One grandfather worked with Mahatma Gandhi in the freedom and equality movement, and the movement which wanted to create full citizenship and full rights for everybody. And he worked very hard, and he was an educator and a headmaster. That was his nickname. My other grandfather was a barrister as well as a public servant in politics at the state level in India. Now, that was further ignited by, I'm sure you remember, the great late Grace Mary Stern. She was my political mentor. At the age of 16, I was a scrawny little Indian kid who my civics teacher said, "You need to meet this lady." And when I met this lady, she said, "Here's what I want you to do for me," and I did it, and she called me her right hand from that point forward. And I learned a lot about no preferential treatment. I learned a lot about bipartisanship. I learned a lot about giving people what they need. I learned a lot about taking care of the taxpayer. And I have a plan and a vision which I hope to explain to you in the questions that will be forthcoming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Dave, you'll be the first to answer question. First question. What are the issues in the office of Circuit Court Clerk that you will focus on? Pardon? 1.5?
Thank you very much. That's a very, very important question. And that leads me to tell you about my plan and my vision. Technology is a huge issue, and I have to tell you, it bothers me when my opponent says that there is no learning curve. It bothers me when my opponent says that everything he's learned has been from the veteran that has been in the office for over 30 years, because you see, things haven't changed. And I know that word is used a lot, change, but let me tell you that the computer system that is there right now needs changing. It is a dinosaur. And just like you wouldn't put good money after bad in your own households, why should we do it in the public, in the public arena? It's wrong. Lots of money has been spent in trying to sustain this system. And this is like that black screen with the green lettering. I mean, do you remember that system? It's just not right. If your VCR broke down, would you hire somebody to fix that? Or would you buy a DVD player and say, okay, this is going to last me a longer period of time? And that's what I'm for. I'm for making things better in the present so that we can invest in the future. That's sound economic policy. Thank you.
Mr. Brin, do you want, if at any time you want me to repeat the question, just ask.
Oh, I think I remember the question. Thank you. The issues in the office. The biggest issue in the office, there are actually two. The first is how to take the office that is now running quite well. Our customer service, bar none, is some of the best in the state of Illinois when it comes to servicing the people who use the courts. Our personnel are wonderful. We thrive on customer service, and we thrive on living within our budget and our means to make it happen for the people of Illinois, and specifically the people using our court system. But the issue is, how do we take it to the next level? And that is, again, through technology. So even before we began this campaign, when I came in the office 3.5 years ago, that's what we really focused on, technology. How do we make it better? We've already made a lot of changes to the inside, how things are run, how we deal with finances and technology. Those are things that don't readily necessarily affect you on the outside, but are part and parcel of a bigger program, a technological infrastructure that we're going to put into place as we wait for implementation that will, again, revitalize and create a situation where our court system becomes the profile of a court system to emulate for not only Illinois, but those around the country. The second part is maintaining the transparency and accountability to you all when it comes to our budget, when it comes to the way we do things in the office. Every year, we go to the county board. I just did on behalf of Sally, the clerk of the circuit court. We ask the county board in a big budget book for what we're going to need for the next year and why we're going to need it. Well, I'm proud to say that our office has excess revenues. We're hoping to return over $2 million back to the county board at the end of this session, and we're going to continue to do so while I'm clerk of the circuit court.
Thank you. Mr. Brin, you'll be first on this question. Who has the final say in policy as to accessibility of the office, either physically or electronically, the clerk of the circuit court or the judges?
Actually, both, and a combination of a third. The policy and the way we run the office is actually dictated quite strictly by statute. and that comes from the Office of the Illinois Courts, which is the administrative arm of the Illinois Supreme Court justices. They tell the courts in Illinois how they can operate, and they generate the policy. Of course, at the local circuit court level, in our case, the 19th Judicial Circuit, the courts and the circuit clerk, the judges, in our case right now, Chief Justice Fred Foreman, we are all working together to develop policy. And right now, I'm pleased to say that we're working on developing a policy not only for remote access, so that you all will have access to our records remotely from anywhere, but also a policy going forward as to public access, which is different, and again, as defined by the wizards at the Illinois Supreme Court. And third, more importantly, how we deal with a comprehensive technological structure down the line for things like electronic filing, financing the electronic filing, and operations and how it will affect the courts. Sometimes there are little things, like for example, while an electronic system is up 24 hours a day, our courts close at 5 o'clock. So if you file something at 5:01, when is it truly filed? These are things we're working on with our judges and locally at the circuit that the Supreme Court has said that we can determine, and that's who will have the final say when it comes to those issues.
Thank you.
First of all, let me make it very, very clear that I value all the clerks in the office. They work very, very hard. What I want to do is make it easier for them. I want to make it easier for them to do their jobs. I want to provide the human factor that allows them to speak their minds and allows them to say how they feel about various things. And that's a whole nother issue. But let me get back to the technology issue. It's like, here we go again. You have an election cycle, and when you've been in office and things haven't taken place, right before the election, all of a sudden there's a scramble to get things done. And that's not correct. That's not the right way to do things. You don't do things in a manner that is self-serving, but rather in a manner that is going to help the taxpayer from day one. And that's what I propose to do. I look forward, I already have a list of companies. I look forward to a bidding process, and by the way, there was a no-bid contract. I do not believe in a no-bid contract. I believe in a bidding process, and I believe in taking care of the taxpayer. I have lots of attorneys who call me regularly saying, what are you going to do about this system? And my opponent has yet to say that he will remove this system and do something better. Thank you.
Mr. Brin. Okay, sorry. Okay, the third question, Mr. I'll start. What will you bring to the office of Circuit Court Clerk that distinguishes your candidacy from your opponent?
Thank you for that question. As I mentioned before, I have an economics degree, but what I did not mention is that I've managed a multi-million-dollar company that dealt with NASA and with General Motors. I know how to deal with a budget. I was also the vice president of the YWCA, and I know how to deal with a multi-million-dollar budget in a not-for-profit arena as well as for-a-profit arena. I have a vision towards the human factor as well, and that means taking care of our clerks and having an open-door policy and letting people speak their minds in terms of what do they think it needs to be changed. I'm open-minded to what needs to be changed. And I don't dig my heels into the ground and say, oh, this is the only way to do it. No. So I bring a vast experience. I'm also a small business owner, have been for a long time, a practicing attorney. And so with that myriad of factors that come together, I think I can serve you very, very well as your next clerk, and I ask you to help me to help you. Thank you.
What I bring to this campaign and to my candidacy for Clerk of the Circuit Court, I think, is pretty on target and pretty evident. As the Chief Deputy of the office now, I bring the experience of actually having done the job. I'm managing the office now. We have 5 courthouses, almost 150 people, $12 million plus budget. I'm doing all of that right now. I've been doing it for the last 3.5 years. I'm not going to have to train to learn how to be a deputy clerk. I practiced law for many years. I was in the business world. They didn't teach us how to be clerks when I went to law school. You have to learn all that. To me, one of the most important things to do to manage an office is to learn what the jobs of the people in the office do. I've learned that. Now I'm on to the management, leadership, and strategic aspects of the office. These are things that I've already been doing in the office. These are things that on day one as your circuit clerk, I will keep doing. I formed the relationships with the county board. I formed the relationships with the Bar Association, with the judges, with people outside of the court system that are impacted with our court system. We've already collaborated on projects. We will continue to do so. We have work groups ongoing. We have a vision to do fantastic things with the court system. Our police departments are involved. Our mayors, municipalities, aldermen, presidents of municipalities. We have brought them all in and we have asked them, how can we do our job better? This is not something we will start on day one. This is something we will continue on day one. And this is what my candidacy brings to the table, and I look forward to being your circuit clerk.
Thank you. Mr. Brin, you'll be first on this. In Cook County, you can file a case or appearance in any branch facility. In Lake County, probate cases must be filed in Park City, while adoptions must be filed in Vernon Hills. Do you think this is a good system?
It's interesting you should bring that up, but we've gotten this question before. The answer is twofold. First of all, Cook County is different than any other court system in the country. It's huge. It's a behemoth. A few things they do well, many other things we don't really want to emulate. We like the way we're doing things in Lake County for our court system. Our judges like it. Our lawyers like it. You can ask them. They like to come down to Lake County to practice law. But in any case, there are actually very specific logistic reasons that has to occur. When a case is filed, there are pre-numbered filing folders that are available at the specific courthouses where we like to keep our files closest to where they'll be heard. In the absence of doing this, we could spend money to have these file folders numbered at every single one of the courthouses, which to me would just be an excessive waste of money. It would be more convenient, but right now it'd be a waste of money. So what we're trying to do, and similar with other things, is that we're trying to put in place a technological infrastructure that will allow you as the user in the court system to file anything you could do with the court system from outside the court system, but anywhere, from the comfort of your computer, from the comfort of your home or office, using no additional software with no additional training, costing you no additional money than what you're going to spend on the filings at the counters where you'd have to file them. That's our comprehensive solution, in a way that we can save money to protect the fiscal management of the office while making your accessibility to the office much better.
Thank you.
It's surprising to me that this has not taken place much earlier. It's surprising to me that I receive phone calls from actually members on the executive board, whom I shall not mention, that say, wow, this is your line. This is what your plan is. And all of a sudden, this is what is being talked about. Are we talking about making things better for the taxpayer? Are we talking, or are we talking about saving a job? Is it going to take for change to take place in the last month of an election cycle, or is it going to take place, for change to take place in the first month, where you start making the changes for the benefit of the taxpayers? What is the motivation here? What is it? Ask yourself that. What is it going to take the next time you want things made better for you? Is it going to take another election where there may be a threat to losing a job? Or is it going to take a vision and a plan? This is my plan and my vision. And I am ready to implement that and start working on it from day one. And I will make sure that everybody is treated non-preferentially. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Dovey, you are first on this question.
Yes, ma'am.
What should be the policy regarding using phones and handheld devices to take pictures or scans of court files?
I think that that is an issue that it opens up some areas that may not be safe. And when I'm talking about remote access and online access to case status reviews and putting cases on the call and paying fines, I'm not talking about these things, these technological aspects without safeguards. We have to have safeguards. And it seems to me that to allow people to take photographs and to have full access in that regard to court files may be violating that, and that would have to be looked at very carefully. But at the same time, you also have the ability to have those copied. So there has to be a review, a very, very careful review of what is safe and what is convenient, and we have to come to the middle, and we have to make things that are going to work for everybody while putting protections in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's actually a great question, and it's a question that we're going to run into in similar fashion because technology is moving much faster than many of our policies with the court system. Our records are naturally open to public inspection. If you come into our office, unless there's some reason statutorily or by court order, generally speaking, you can ask for a file and we'll let you take a look at it. Well, this issue actually did come up. About 4 months ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, I became aware of an appellate court case, which in a different county said that in order to fulfill the mission of the circuit clerk's office, that allowing individuals to come in with personally held handheld scanners or phones to photograph, they could photograph court files. So what I immediately did, again, this is how we work in the circuit clerk's office. I called people at the Bar Association and I said, you know what, this has come up. We need to develop a new policy that balances the security of the courthouse personnel. We can't have people walking around photographing courthouse personnel or security or the rest. That would be a problem, and that would be wrong, and I think everyone understood that. And they said, well, let's work together. So we did, and we actually changed and developed a policy going forward. And in fact, in our courthouse today, you can come in with your personally handheld scanner and your personal cell phone or personal photographing equipment, and you can take a look at our files, and you may take pictures for your personal use, following the idea that in statute, our records are open to public inspection. This is how we operate, though, to change policies moving forward. Now, we're going to have a lot of these issues come forward, especially as technology gets better and better, but we will handle them with the community. We will see what's best for the courthouse and what works best for the circuit clerk's office.
Thank you. One last question, then we'll go to closings. What is your opinion about combining the offices of the clerk and recorder? And Mr. Brin, you get to start.
Well, I disagree with it. They're vastly different ideas. Inasmuch as theoretically you could combine any two administrative offices in the courthouse, I suppose if you went along that path and just pick those two, okay. They're really totally dissimilar. They don't do any of the same things. The recorder's office deals with recording land, instruments, and deeds. The clerk of the circuit court's office is the hub of the information wheel for the court system. That is not something that I'd advocate. I think the recorder's job is a difficult one, and I certainly know from my experience that the circuit clerk's office has a very, very tremendous load on its shoulders, not only with the number of cases that are filed through the court system, but the way that those cases have to be handled and operating in the courtrooms and operating all the finances with the court system. I would not be an advocate for combining those two offices.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Yes, I actually agree with my opponent on this issue. I don't think it's a good idea. The offices are completely different. They have different functions, and it would absolutely, I believe, would cause confusion and chaos. And the Recorder of Deeds office is very, very critical in its own fashion because it has to be very specific as to land ownership and title. And the clerk's office, in my opinion, is the gateway to the legal and court system. And both are very, very separate and should not be melded together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Devia, you can start with closing.
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to have been here to speak in front of you. I hope I've answered your questions. I have a plan and a vision for a better clerk's office, for a clerk's office that allows access to attorneys, to pro se litigants, litigants without attorneys, to the taxpayer. And I think it can be done, I know it can be done in a very technologically progressive way that is going to be of benefit to us all. And we have to look at that. I believe in a bidding process. I believe in the human factor. I believe in transparency. I know that that word is very overused, but let me explain that there was online access for a few attorneys that nobody knew about until the clerk, until the chief judge found out about it and said, please stop. And the current administration said, make us. And guess what? Your taxpayer dollars went into a cease and desist order that made them stop doing that and giving preferential treatment to certain attorneys, maybe not your attorneys. How would you like that? Maybe not your attorneys, but certain attorneys. And I don't have that information because there's a transparency issue. There will not be a transparency issue in my administration. And so I'm asking for your support. I hope that I've answered your questions. I'm asking you to help me to help you to make this office a much better place and a consumer-friendly office, because our clerks deserve it and you deserve it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Brin?
As I started with when I stood before you a few minutes ago, this campaign's about experience and vision. Right now, I'm doing everything as the chief deputy on behalf of the current clerk of the circuit court, and I have been for the last 3.5 years, that I will be doing on day one for all of you as your clerk of the circuit court. But we're going to move this forward. We're going to take the courts into the 21st century. Right now, the vision that I have for the courts is one where we ask ourselves, why can't we do things with the courts? Why can't we expand accessibility? Why can't we do so properly in a fiscally well-managed budget? Why can't we do it using the community? Why can't we ask mayors and police chiefs how we can better serve them in the court system? No one's asked them. Why not? They're as much our customer as anyone else. We're working with our lawyers. We're working with our judges. How can we make it better for everyone in our system? Well, guess what? That's what we're doing. We value collaborative relationships, and we value doing so while the office is fiscally managed. The office right now uses no tax dollars for operation. We also, for all of our innovations, don't use any tax dollars and have not to create nor implement anything we do in the office. I see that many of you have a slightly stunned look on your face, and here's the reason why. We use user fees in the office. They're dictated by statute. People pay on court files and other things to use the system. Now that money is used to defray from the county board funding the office. However, the amount of money that we spend for the operation of the office, that's what we ask the county board for. I can't account for any other clerk's offices, I can't account for any other government offices, but I can promise you this. While I'm your clerk of the circuit court, we will never, never use more money for the operation of the office than we bring in user fees. We will not use taxpayer dollars for the operation of the office. We will continue to innovate the office, we will continue to move forward, and we will make Lake County Court System the jewel of the court system in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank both of you for taking your time to be with us today. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we move on to the next.
hear me now? Okay. Honest to God, I should get paid for a commercial. I'm on. Okay, we're going back to the policy, 1.5 minutes for an opening statement and closing statements, 1 minute for responses. And I'd like to thank Ms. Vanderventer. Did I do it good? Vanderventer. And Mr. Bednar for being here today. And they are candidates for the recorder for Lake County. And Ms. Vanderventer, I'm playing Monopoly with your name is what I'm doing, gets the opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay, okay. Feedback, so it's hard to tell. Thank you, everybody. I'm delighted to be here today, and I want to thank everybody for hosting this event. I've served as your Lake County Recorder for 16 years, and I'm incredibly proud of all that my staff and I have done. I'm running today on my record of accomplishments and my passion for the job and my passion for the people that we serve. As the keeper in Lake County of history, we continue to utilize available technology, transforming the office into a modern, responsive, and friendly operation while still keeping the old-fashioned traditions of the office alive. Every single phone call is answered by a real live human being. There's no buttons or menus to push. Over the last 5 years, we have reduced our budget by over 25% while increasing accessibility and offering the best business practices for our customers. I would ask that you remember 2 things today. Number 1, no taxes are used in the operation of the recorder's office. No taxes. We receive our revenue from user fees, and that money goes back into the general fund, and that's distributed for county services. And there is not a single duty or task that is performed in the recorder's office that is duplicated by any other unit of government. We are the only game in town. There is not one other duty that anyone else performs. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks.
Mr. Bednar.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum today. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Bob Bednar. I'm the Republican candidate for Recorder of Deeds. I got involved in this race a little over 2 years ago when I saw counties around Illinois begin to do consolidations where they looked at their Recorder of Deeds race and they decided, why are we electing somebody to this position? Why can't we take the duties and functions of this office and merge it into our county clerk's office? Both offices have a lot of similarities. They both have a treasury function. They both take in user fees. They both have staff that record documents. They both have staff that serve the public at a counter. They both have staff that do similar things from a payroll perspective. They're clerks. They sit at computer screens and they move paper around for the county. Administrative offices are great opportunities for consolidation. My business experience, I've spent 10 years as a bank controller right out of college. I spent 1989 to 2008 in the mortgage industry. That's 20 years. I dealt with deeds, I dealt with mortgages, I dealt with recording documents. I helped homeowners look up deeds they hadn't found. I never went to the recorder's office to get what I needed. I'd call up a title person that I knew. And the title people, the attorneys, the mortgage companies, those are the users of the recorder's office. It happens when property is being transferred or refinanced. I've got the experience to do this job, but I think when you look at an election, especially one where it's 4 years and it's an administrative function, you have to ask yourself this: what's the goal? My goal is to do it better, to do it more efficiently on the expense side. The revenues come in set by state statute, but it's the expense side where we can save money. I hope you'll consider Bob Bednar as your next recorder.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar, you get the first question, and it is, do you think the recorder should be an elected or appointed office?
This sounds like a familiar question. I had this Wednesday at the last League forum, and my answer remains the same. Neither. There are offices that should be elected. I think it's important for us to elect a sheriff, to elect a state's attorney, clerk of the circuit court. The recorder, though, is this thin little layer of administration that most of us never see. It's invisible. You move into a county, nobody goes to the recorder's office to record a deal. I shouldn't say nobody, but most of the time, we're using an attorney, we're using a mortgage company, a title company's involved, and that's how the process really happens. You know, those are the people that need to get service out of the recorder's office. This is the age of electronics. Computers are doing the work. I believe that we should have a discussion. We should get to the point where county board members sit down, initiate a study, and we look at it and say, does it save us any money? Can we take the recorder's salary and eliminate it?
I don't think my opponent has a clue what we do in the recorder's office. And I know for a fact that he's never stepped foot into the recorder's office. It is a critical function in Lake County government. And we'll get into why it should not be merged, hopefully, in a question or two. But I honestly, absolutely believe that these positions should be elected. You, as the taxpayer, should have every right to decide every 4 years who it is you're going to hire or not rehire. I would ask that you certainly take a look and rehire me. I've worked very hard for the last 16 years to really open up this office. My opponent says he would get his documents from the title companies. Where in the world do you think the title company gets the documents from? The recorder's office. We are the only game in town. When you record your information, it is funneled out to all the different communities, the title companies, lawyers, banks. Oh, I have so much more to say. I know.
Okay. Ms. Vanderventer, you get to answer this first, and it goes to what you just mentioned. The functions of the Recorder of Deeds has been consolidated with other county offices in the lion's share of Illinois counties. Why can't this happen in Lake County?
Yes, it has been merged in several other counties, and the threshold is if you have a county, to qualify, your county has to have 60,000 residents or more, 60,000. Most of those that have merged throughout Illinois are rural counties and have far less than 60,000. Lake County's population is 700,000. We are the third largest county in the state. And frankly, this is a moot point. There is absolutely no county board effort to merge this office whatsoever. This is a misplaced effort on my opponent's part, and it's an effort that simply won't save any money. It's not going to happen. So it would be nice to hear some new ideas or a vision from my opponent, because all he runs on is merging the office, and it just is not going to happen. We are the highest revenue producer in Lake County. We bring in 7 times the money that the county clerk's office does. So if you have 2 Walgreens in your city, and one is bringing in 7 times the revenue than the other store, 7 times the profit, this is not the office that you're going to touch. You're going to leave it alone. You're going to leave its location alone. You're going to let it collect its profit so that it can be distributed out to the other county offices. That's where the sheriff's department gets money for sheriff vehicles. That's where the health department gets money to vaccinate the children in Lake County. The money that we bring in is divvied out to all the different departments. I think it's supposed to be stop, isn't it? We were getting confused on the flags. That's okay.
Mr. Bednar?
The 2 Walgreens stores is a bad example. Business makes decisions because it's profitable, because it saves them money, because it generates greater shareholder wealth. Government doesn't have that advantage. When you need your documents recorded, you don't go to the recorder's office. I have stepped foot in the recorder's office, but Mary Ellen doesn't know it. It was back in 1997, and I was there looking up a copy of my own deed at the time. But that's okay. But if we go back to the 2 Walgreens examples, Just because Walgreens makes a decision, it doesn't mean we should base our decision on the Recorder of Deeds office because business would go a certain route. There is no other customer for you to serve other than the homeowners and the people recording deeds in Lake County. That's the function here. It's true, we don't use taxpayer funds in this office. The fees generated far exceed what the payroll costs and the other contractual services that run the office cost. The savings is in the payroll. The savings is in having a full staff ready to do certain things and you're not always busy. The savings is where you take counter staff in the recorder's office and counter staff in the county clerk's office and you record them. It's not even an idea we're going to discuss. It's not something that's been studied. You know, when you talk about an election, it should be about a vision. It should be about looking forward for the next 4 years. Mary Ellen's been a good servant for 16 years, but that doesn't mean that all the good ideas have been used up. The office is dramatically different today than it was 16 years ago. Look at what computers do today. They touch everything in our lives.
Thank you. Mr. Bednar, you're first on this question. What technology changes need to be made?
We see it every day. Technology is just amazing, isn't it? Even something as simple as watching television, you can get it through satellite. You've got a couple choices as far as getting it through the ground wire. You can go through AT&T, you can go through Comcast. You have a lot of choices. Or you can put the aerial back on the roof and just get the 5 or 6 channels that are available. But not too many people are doing that. And we've seen that happen in just the last couple of decades. Our cars today, most of them have more than one computer in them. Refrigerators, furnaces, they all have circuit boards in them. They're all miniature computers. The statute that dictated that at 60,000 population, counties automatically started electing a recorder of deeds was written into law decades and decades before the advent of computers and technology that we use today. We have the ability to record hundreds of thousands of documents digitally. That's why out in Los Angeles, the largest county in our country, they combined these two offices 6 years ago. Mary Ellen says it can't be done in large counties. It can, and it has happened. There's a lady named Sherry Griffith running in Cook County on the same platform that I'm running on. This is not a new idea. It just needs to be looked at.
We have worked really hard to use technology to upgrade the office, and there's a real balance in the recorder's office. All of our information is public information. You can walk in and you may see anything on the 7 million documents that we have. But we've also taken great steps to guard that information, to guard your information. We know it's public, but we still feel as if we have a duty to protect you. One of the things that we have used technology for was we went back and we redacted, or we hid, every one of your social security numbers in the 7 million documents that we have. That was a huge project, but really an important project because it is one of the first things that people use when they begin to steal your identity. The other thing was we worked very closely with our legislators, and we have taken off the public rolls, we have hidden all of the military paperwork. All of the DD-214s from our veterans are now behind the scenes in our office. We're the keeper of the military paperwork. You might not know that. But we have taken that off the rolls because, and we've used technology to do it, because it has everything on there for identity theft. It has your name, your address, your social security number. It has way too much information. So that has been hidden. Since 2007, we have partnered with over 2,000 of our professional clients to extend our office by using, through a subscription. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience on this. The question I have in front of me is not an issues question, but I'm going to ask it in case either one of you know the answer for the audience. There was talk of a referendum to eliminate the office on the ballot. Do either one of you know what happened to that?
Yes.
Okay, well then,
You know, the echo's pretty bad. Could you repeat that, please?
there was talk of a referendum to eliminate the office on the ballot. Do you know what happened to that? At the talk,
I'm happy to answer. I do know.
okay,
But
just,
That's not
do you
fair
know
to
any,
you, I don't
do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Okay.
I'll just tell you really quickly, it was back in 1990,
Oh.
there was a question on the ballot to have the recorder's office not be an elected position. It was soundly defeated 2-1. Lake County wanted no part of that.
Okay.
You know, I'll just add to that, now that you said that. Bob Custer, I believe at the time, was our recorder
In Cook County,
in Cook County.
Frank Nestra was our.
Frank Nestor, excuse me. There was a lot of political talk about not wanting to see it eliminated. You know, people listen to their elected officials, and they look for guidance there.
Okay, thank you. Just clarify for whoever asked the question. We're going to closing statements, and Mr. Bednar, you get to go first.
Thank you. You have to have vision. If you don't have vision, you're lost. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. You know, if you're a truck driver, if you're an accountant, if you're an attorney, if you're the recorder of deeds. I've been surprised at a lot of things in this election. I've enjoyed meeting so many people while going through this process, and it's really something. You know, you do put yourself out there when you run for a countywide position. There's a lot to it. There's so much to learn. I am not a professional politician. I'm just like you. I get up every morning. I put on my pants one leg at a time. I eat breakfast. I go to work. I make sure my daughter gets her education and she gets off to school. She's off at college. Maybe my job's half done. I figure even after college, the way things are now, parents still have a big burden. But then there's also the vision that we have in what we do professionally. And when I served clients in the mortgage industry, I dealt with that. I didn't have to go to the recorder's office to get information. I dealt with where I could get it the easiest, the fastest, the least amount of expense. That's what you expect from your elected officials. That's why I'm running for this. I believe there's a better way out there. I think it's time to have a second set of eyes, look at what's in the recorder's office. It's that simple. So Bob Bednar for recorder in Lake County. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here on such a beautiful day. In closing, I would just add that my opponent offered no new ideas, no plan, no vision for the recorder's office. He honestly wants you to believe that after spending thousands of dollars of his own money in a year on the campaign trail, that he's going to walk in and just, well, let's close her up. It's ridiculous. My goal is to continue to provide top-notch service for the people of Lake County. Since 1996, I have been endorsed in every election by every newspaper, including the Daily Herald, the Chicago Tribune, the New Sun, the Pioneer Press, and the Lake County Journal. And I'm really, really proud of that. I thank you so much for being here. I ask for your support, and I very respectfully ask for your vote on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to thank both candidates for taking time to be with us today, and we'll take a short break while we switch nameplates. Okay, it's a Verizon, oh, there it is, another Verizon moment. Since you can now hear me, we will be having 1.5 minute opening statement by both candidates, and then we will move into 1 minute for the questions. And Mr. Rudd, excuse me.
Both of ours are dead.
The guys, they say their microphone.
Both mics are dead.
Good. Not anymore.
They're not dead.
Not any longer.
All right, my name is Thomas Rudd. I'm a physician and surgeon licensed in the state of Illinois for 33 years. I received my medical degree from the University of Illinois and then subsequently specialized in pathology at Northwestern University Medical Center, where I did my training. I did a fellowship then in Michael Reese Hospital. And while I was in medical school, I got a medical microbiology master's degree at Loyola. Right out of training, I came out to Lake County and worked at Highland Park and Lake Forest Hospitals, where I was the vice chairman of pathology at Highland Park, the medical director of nuclear medicine at Highland Park, as well as the radiation safety officer. And I was medical director of hematology, coagulation, and urinalysis at both hospitals. After 15 years there, I went into private practice actually, I left private practice and went into a large commercial lab venture, where I was medical director of anatomic pathology. I've managed budgets from as low as $20 million up to several $100 million. In the span of 33 years, I've signed out almost 750,000 cases. That's an individual signature and diagnosis. I hope to restore professionalism, integrity, and to make the office of coroner a non-political office.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
My name is Steve Newton. About 20 months ago, we started running our campaign based on 3 core values: integrity, respect, and compassion. I currently work for the Lake County Sheriff's Office. Prior to that, I was with the Lake County Coroner's Office for 7 years. I worked there as a deputy coroner as well as the chief deputy coroner of the office. I think it's important that when you look at electing your next coroner, you look at electing somebody who has experience within the office. I think it's very important that the leader of the office knows what the employees that they're supervising are going through on a daily basis in such a hard office to work in. Additionally, I have gained much support from the funeral homes locally, who have a track record of working with me and know how I work within the coroner's office. I ask for your vote in this upcoming election, and hopefully we get to some good questions here very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. First question, and Mr. Newton, you'll get this first.
Okay.
What characteristics are needed in a coroner that may not be needed as much in another administrative position?
When you're dealing with the coroner's office, you're talking about an office that deals with people at the worst possible time in their life. You need someone that deals with families in a most respectful and most compassionate manner. It's not unheard of for the coroner to be out at 2 o'clock in the morning knocking on someone's door to give them the worst possible news of their life. It takes a special individual, someone who's been there, someone who's held the hand of a family member, giving them that horrific news, to run an office where others may be asked to do that.
Mr. Wright?
I agree. Compassion is very, very important in this office. I just want to mention that even though I'm a pathologist, I did meet with patients because pathology has changed over the last several years. We do actually meet with patients when the clinician asks us to explain the diagnosis. But I also did nuclear medicine, which is a form of radiology using radioisotopes where I had to meet with patients. I've made diagnoses on patients, talked to them about their diagnosis. I've seen them years later when other biopsies were performed, or if nuclear medicine procedures were done to see if the disease was stable or had spread. I've had to give the news that the cancer or disease they had did spread. I offered them hope when there was therapy, but I also had to tell them when the therapy was not working. We'd done everything we could possibly do. And yes, sometimes I've had to do autopsies on the patients I followed over decades. I've had to explain that to their family, so I know what compassion is about. But at the same time, this office is a laboratory. It does medical death investigations. I feel that a physician, especially a pathologist, should be in this office to be able to talk to other physicians about those who have passed and to be able to review their medical records and, most importantly, explain the disease to the family and how the patient died.
Thank you. Mr. Rudd, you'll go first on this question. What policy changes would you make?
I'm sorry?
What policy changes would you make? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if we could say policy. This is, this is what I'd like to do. There are 4 things I'd like to do. First of all, the office is an extension of law enforcement, which it shouldn't be. Now, it does have quasi law enforcement responsibilities if the sheriff, for some reason, is not able to perform his job, and the coroner does take over. But having a physician in this position eliminates any conflict of interest as far as law enforcement. Secondly, being a physician, I know the science of medicine, and we can make sure that all death investigations follow current scientific methodology. I'll make sure that all death investigations are reported on time to all stakeholders. We will follow the budget, and most importantly, we will try to get the office certified by the National Association of Medical Examiners, which means that we'll be following the gold standards of death investigation.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
One of the first things that I'm looking forward to changing as part of policy, the way it stands now, our coroner's office does not conduct inquests. Inquests are a jury trial type proceeding where the coroner, the investigators that were involved in the investigation, as well as the forensic pathologists who did the autopsies, and family members are able to go before a jury and provide the facts of the case. This jury then determines the manner of death, be it homicide, suicide, accident, or undetermined. My opponent likes to talk about running an unbiased office, and he keeps pointing his finger at law enforcement. However, I think that somebody who's been a physician in the county for 30-plus years probably knows that there's a lot of other physicians that make mistakes, and there's another reason for having this inquest, to make sure that everything is unbiased. Furthermore, I would like to reevaluate all of the policies that have been put into place under the last administration of Richard Keller. A lot of these policies removed family members out of the entire process. A lot of these policies were not only illegal, but unethical. And I think that whoever the next coroner is needs to look at each and every one of these policies that's currently in place to make sure that things are being done by law.
Thank you. Mr. Newton, you're first on this question. What is the current budget of the office, and what portions of it could be merged with the sheriff's office?
There's an echo.
I'm sorry.
We couldn't hear. We have a tough time hearing.
Okay. Better?
Slightly. Go ahead.
He's controlling it in the back, not me. Okay. What is the current budget of the office, and what portions of it could be merged with the sheriff's office?
Okay. The current budget for the coroner's office is approximately $1.2 million. It's a small office, and it doesn't generate a lot of revenue. The revenue that it does generate is based off of urinalysis testing that the coroner's office does for certain agencies throughout the county. As far as merging with the sheriff's office, I don't feel that there's any specific tasks that the coroner does that would warrant merging that with the sheriff.
It's an interesting question. I haven't actually thought of it, but I'll have to agree with Mr. Newton. I think it would be wrong just on the basis of conflict of interest. The last thing you want to have done is a death investigation by the sheriff's office.
Thank you. Okay, next question, Mr. Rudd, you start. Mr. Rudd, you start with this one. What is the difference in responsibilities between a coroner and a medical examiner?
The way the law is written here, a coroner's, the only thing the coroner has to have as far as an ability to do the job is a high school degree and no criminal record. Now, that means it's basically, as it's set up in Lake County, an administrative office, and the coroner does sign the cause and manner of death, okay, once he gets the autopsy report. The medical examiner is an individual that can do both the administrative role as well as perform the autopsy and interpret the results. So that means a medical examiner will perform the autopsy and determine the cause and manner of death and can therefore sign it. In Lake County, even though if I was in the position as a coroner, I could not actually do the autopsy because there's a law against it. So, in summary, a medical examiner can do the administrative role, and he can actually do and interpret the autopsy, whereas the coroner is strictly an administrative role.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Newton?
The coroner is the administrator of a medical legal death investigation office. When it comes to the medical examiner, one of your biggest differences is you're dealing with an appointment versus an election. As other candidates have spoke today, I feel that it's important, considering that $1.2 million budget comes out of taxpayer funds, that you have the opportunity to rehire or fire the person that's in charge of that budget on a regular basis. The only current medical examiner model we have to compare to in Illinois is Cook County, which is run by a pathologist and has gone under a lot of fire lately for issues that have occurred there. No fault whatsoever of that doctor, but appointing a medical examiner doesn't take the politics out of the office. Opening up the transparency, re-involving the families, that will take the politics out of that office.
Thank you. Mr. Newton, you're first on this one. What technology changes need to be made?
There have been certain technology advances that have come into play over the course of about the past year and a half. Many of you may remember the coroner's office was under scandal, our coroner resigned, and a coroner was appointed in the interim. During the time the sheriff's office was running the coroner's office, technology advances in evidence cataloging, as well as x-ray, as well as some of the autopsy suites had been enhanced upon. And our current coroner, Artis Yancey, has continued to enhance on those changes. I think that getting into the office, seeing where the technology currently sits, would be the best way to possibly answer that question. I know in the past we have written grants to bring not only the live scan fingerprint unit, but other pieces of scientific equipment to help us complete our jobs as death investigators. And I would be looking forward to doing more of that work.
Thank you.
The procedure called an autopsy is a very old procedure in medicine. There are ancillary materials and procedures we can use. But I think the most important is, as I mentioned before, we need to follow national standards so that we can tell the community that the cause and manner of death was followed by these national standards. That means we should get certified by the National Association of Medical Examiners, and if we have the time and the effort, we should also have each deputy coroner certified by the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. As an example, every hospital you walk into is certified by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospitals. If it isn't, it folds. Speaking just for the lab, there are other departments I could mention. You walk into the lab, the pathologists there are board certified. They're recertified every 10 years, and they take maintenance of certification. Each tech that is there is certified by the American Society of Clinical Pathologists. In other words, everything that's done to you and for you in the hospital is done by professionals who are certified. We're going to do the same thing in the coroner's office. A death investigation is a medical procedure. It's just done on somebody who has died by a physician, and it's done by a physician, and we will follow national standards.
Thank you. Mr. Rudd, you get this question? First, how will you inform family members of a death?
First, you are alerted to the fact that a death has occurred by generally the police department. You have to identify the individual to make sure you're absolutely certain that it is the individual. And then you go to the family and inform them of what has happened to their loved one.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
And I will agree with what he said and add to it that it needs to be done in a timely manner. My opponent at a recent candidate forum made mention that it would be done at an hour of convenience. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 p.m. in the afternoon. When a loved one dies, a family needs to be notified right away. It's not something that needs to wait for a more convenient hour. There is no convenient hour when it comes to notifying someone of a death.
Thank you. Mr. Newton, you're first on this question. Are most deaths handled by the coroner caused by disease or other reasons?
That's for me?
Mr. Newton's first on this one.
Deaths across Lake County average between 3,000 and 4,000 a year. Majority of these are medical deaths. A majority of these are investigated only to a limited area by the coroner's office, taking a report, dealing with the physician, communicating with the physician to find out what the person's disease processes were, and then that physician generally, the person's own physician, will sign the death certificate. The coroner's office gets involved when the death is unexpected and due to an unknown cause, or if it's something of violent, traumatic, and sudden nature, such as a car accident or a homicide or a suicide. A majority of the deaths are from natural causes and are handled by the physician, the patient's physician. There's been some statistics lately that we see amongst the non-natural deaths that I think the coroner's office should probably promote awareness on. For instance, you heard earlier one of our state's attorney's candidates discuss the heroin issue. Heroin issue has become large in Lake County, being close to Chicago, which is a central hub. And this year alone, we're up to 40 deaths in Lake County attributed directly to heroin. I've already started working pre-election with organizations throughout the county to help promote the awareness of these types of issues, hoping to inform the young people of the dangers of this.
Pardon me. Mr. Newton's correct. The vast majority of deaths are natural. We have 5 manners: natural, accidental, suicidal, homicidal, and undetermined. Thank God most of the deaths in the county are natural. The others hopefully are preventable. And the office should work through education in trying to prevent the other 4 types of deaths.
Thank you. Since we're on time constraints, we're going to go to closing comments now. Mr. Newton, you get to be first on your closing comments.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming out today and listening to all the candidates talk. I know it's been a long afternoon on one of the first beautiful days that we've had. When it comes down to the coroner's office, I ask that you do your research. I ask that not only do you attend forums such as this, but talk to your local area police and firefighters. Talk to your local area funeral homes. These are the people that deal with the coroner's office on a daily basis. See what they think are important roles and who they think the best candidate would be in that office. Recently, I received the endorsement of the Daily Herald, which focused in on my experience within the office, having worked there from the ground up, having done the job of those that I'll be supervising, as well as my temperament. We share a desire to run the coroner's office, but I think you'll see in doing your research and becoming more in tune with the 2 candidates, we're a lot different when it comes to temperament. I feel that families need to be put back in the process of any death investigation in Lake County the way it was done years ago, where families have a say, where families are treated with dignity, respect, and compassion. And it's an office that needs to be held of the highest integrity standards. So I ask this November or before, with early voting starting just tomorrow, that you consider me, Steve Newton, as your next Lake County coroner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
I also want to thank everybody for inviting us here. I would just like to add that who would you want to talk to in regarding to a loved one's death? Somebody with 33 years of experience, not only diagnosing, but treating patients through nuclear medicine procedures, as well as informing patients' families of the deaths of their loved one on autopsies I have performed. I've worked at Highland Park and Lake Forest hospitals for 15 years. I know what it's like to have to deal with patients as well as their families in giving them news that most of us don't want to hear. You may or may not have seen the special on WTTW, the National Public Radio television series on the coroner's offices and how badly they are run throughout the United States. Let me just quote in my closing. 2 years ago, a blue ribbon panel created by the National Academy of Sciences pointed out the lack of mandatory standards for autopsies and the absence of oversight into the performance of coroners. It is recommended that the goal of every state and county should be to move away from the coroner system, which is not based on medicine, and instead hire board-certified pathologists. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both candidates. I'd like to thank all of you who came out today. It's a beautiful day. You could have been outside playing golf, playing tennis, doing something, taking a hike. But the League of Women Voters appreciates your interest and involvement in being an informed electorate. I want to thank all the candidates who came out today and wish them all well in their endeavors. If you need, please take your programs with you. If you have questions that weren't answered, and I apologize if we didn't get to your question, I'm sure the candidates will be available online in different forums to answer those questions. You can check their websites, you can check the league websites, and we will link you with candidates' websites. There's Vote 411 has a voter's guide. I know Highland Park, Highwood, and Lake Forest, Lake Bluff both have their own voters' guides on. So don't forget, there's the defamation, Take a Cheat Defamation, the play that challenges our preconceived notions about race, class, religion, and even the law, which we presented here on Friday night, $10 tickets, $5 for students. On November 1st, which is a Thursday night, the League is sponsoring a meeting at 7 p.m. at Groton Community Center on the Illinois public pensions issue. Just a nice, quiet issue. Thank you again for coming.